Hey everybody, Justin Dunaway and Morgan Denny here, both lead faculty with the Institute of Clinical Excellence. I teach our spinal thrust manipulation in our 8-week persistent pain online course, and Morgan is our lead faculty for the primary care course. So if you're homebound kind of like us and you're looking for some online CEU stuff, jump on ptonice.com and check out, we've got a ton of online courses now, so get in there, take a look at them. But today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite techniques in the spinal thrust manipulation course, the TL junction thrust. Since our live courses are on hold for a little bit, I was kind of jonesing to get in and teach this technique this weekend, so I figured I would bring it to you on PT on Ice. And it fits really nice with about a week or so ago, Jason London did a PT on Ice on Main syndrome, a hidden cause of hip pain. And Tom Denninger and Jeffrey Meadows put out a really nice case report in 2019. I'll throw a link to that on the website here, looking at Main syndrome or TL junction syndrome, or when we get this weird referral pain. Maybe it's in the hip, maybe it's in the groin, maybe it's in the testicle or the labia or down the thigh, but we just can't seem to reproduce it mechanically. Sometimes it lives a little bit higher, and we can jump into the TL junction and reproduce some of those symptoms. And if you have that patient, this is my go-to technique for that. But be sure to check out Jason's PT on Ice and check out that article to cue you in on what types of patients that this would work really well for. And then when that patient shows up, this is the technique. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the patient in long sitting. Obviously, we've done a full evaluation, and we've decided that the TL junction is definitely a referral for this pain. So we're going to put the patient in long sitting. If they're not comfortable in long sitting, we can bolster the legs. We can unload the neurodynamic system here. If they're comfortable here, go ahead and just whatever's comfortable. From here, we're going to have the patient interlace her fingers behind her neck. Now, a lot of times patients, when you say that, will put their hands up here, but then when you go in to apply the thrust to their forearms, it pulls their head into flexion. It can be pretty uncomfortable. So we want to make sure that their fingers are on their neck, elbows in front, and then I want the patient to slouch. Go ahead and slouch for me. And it's really important that I give her the opportunity to show me her flexion. I don't just come in here and drop her into flexion. I don't know how much she has, and I don't want to overcook the system. So once she's here, interlace fingers behind her neck, elbows in front, I'm going to come to the table. I'm going to stagger stance here, right foot in front, left foot in back. And then what I want to do next is I want to drop down nice and low and take my pinky finger in the bottom of my hand here and run it up her elbow, maintaining contact with her forearm, and drop my ear right next to her ear, and my hand is going to land on her CT junction. This kind of drop and slide is super important because what tends to happen is people come in here like this, and then their bicep hits the patient in the forehead, and they have a lot of airspace in here, and they don't have a really good contact point. So what I want to do is drop nice and low, slide my forearm up her forearm, park my ear right next to her ear, hand on the CT junction, and I'm covering as much of her forearms as possible and as equally as possible so I have a place to drive my force through. Next, I'm going to slide up, hand on the CT junction. This hand is going to come up, grab right onto the TL junction, make a tight fist technique, reinforce that fist with the thumb on top. And all I'm going to do is, this part's super important, watch my feet. I'm going to walk my feet up as I bring her back to the table. Now we're going to pause for just a second. I'm going to let Morgan drop here. If I paused right here, if I set this up correctly, my right foot should be in front of my hand, my left foot should be behind my hand, my sternum and pelvis should be directly over my hand. What tends to happen is therapists will bring their patient back, but they leave their hips way back here, and then when they get down, they've got nowhere to thrust to. They've got no room to generate force. But as you see, if I bring my feet up where they belong, get my sternum over my target, my pelvis in line with my sternum, now I've got room to sink into the table, and I've got a lot of space to generate force right here. Go ahead and sit up for me. If you're confused about the hand placement on the backside, it's just a good tight fist here. Spinous process is going to drop right in between the digit 3 and the thenar eminence, and transverse process right across the thenar eminence there. Okay, so patients in long sit, elbows in front, slouch. I'm going to drop nice and low, slide my forearm up hers, park ear to ear, Reinforce on that CT junction. Again, I don't want to be reinforcing flexion through her neck. I want to make sure that I'm just maintaining her flexion, but through her CT junction. Up on CT junction, come up through, grab onto that TL junction, walk my feet up as I bring her back. Now, as I bring her back, right here, I start to feel my hand come in contact with the table. If I bring her any further, she starts to extend over my hand. And I want to do that. I want to find that maximum extension moment and then back her up just a touch. So I know that she is in contact with the table, but in the maximum amount of flexion possible. From there, once I've found that point, once I found that spot where she teeters over my hand, I've got her in maximum flexion. Now from here, I'm going to sink into that diagonal of my hand because my hand isn't directly perpendicular to the table anymore. It's up a little bit. So I want to sink in that diagonal into my hand, sink into the cushion of the table, take up a little bit of resistance in the patient, give it a couple primes, but don't come out of that resistance, and give it a nice quick amplitude thrust. This is not an aggressive technique. There does not need to be any air time. I don't need to bring her up and then slam her back down. All I need to do is bring her into position, maintain that flexion, sink, prime, in a nice quick short amplitude. Go ahead and sit back up. So in real time, it's going to look like this. Drop down nice and low, slide up that forearm, ear to ear, hand on the CT junction, I'm going to slide right up onto that TL junction, walk my feet up here. Perfect. Find that maximum point of flexion or extension right there, bring her back into flexion. Now maintain that flexion as I sink, prime, quick thrust. And drop the patient down. A key with this technique, but really with all techniques, is thinking about the manipulation is all about force generation. Force is mass times acceleration. We can generate a lot of force with a little bit of acceleration and a lot of mass. We can generate the same amount of force with a large amount of acceleration, very small amount of mass. That's going to be more comfortable for the patient. That's going to drive a much stronger neurophysiologic result. So with this technique, and really with all techniques, if you're picking a lever to maximize, we want to reduce mass, but maximize acceleration. You can make this technique very gentle, very effective. And when you're looking at that Tom Denninger paper, when you're listening to Jason London's PT on Ice, this is a really beautiful technique to then take it in the gym, follow up with some great thoracic mobility work, and then send the patients home with a HEP. All right, if you have any questions, I'll leave them in the thread, and I will post those articles. Otherwise, have an awesome week, everybody.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.